Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Inspiring Thoughts podcast today. Really delighted to have Michelle Hartley on the call. Welcome to the podcast, Michelle. Great to have you here.
Thank you. It's brilliant to be here. I'm really excited. And for the benefit of the podcast, I feel like I need to give you credit for wearing that pink shirt today. Like epic work. I'm so proud of you.
Well, it was one of those ones that you didn't get the memo about the team kit. So I've seen all your LinkedIn posts with the pink, and I thought I am going to show up today in my pink top. And you said to me, I've got all corporate, Steve. So there we go. But yeah. So I've gone
now
for the
I feel like
sunshine
I've
bit.
let you down.
Yeah. Next time when we do it, I'll definitely make sure we have our team kit on, which is great. So just to introduce, so Michelle Hartley, her own company, which is about transforming HR from beige to brilliant with magical energy. And if you've seen Michelle's LinkedIn posts, you can see that magical energy come through, but in oodles. So Michelle, do you want to just talk to people about your career, how you've got to where you are today, my lovely?
Yeah, definitely. So I think I was saying this to you earlier before we started recording. I'm a bit of a weird unicorn because I've always been in HR, which you don't find very often nowadays. Like people tend to like fall into it by accident, don't they? Like they've tripped over an HR person and there they are. So I've always been in and around people stuff forever. So I started my career in cheese on toast at Pizza Hut many moons ago. Obviously, I'm not that old, obviously, but started many moons ago at Pizza Hut, and then basically found that this people thing was a thing. It was a career that you could do full time, and it was something you could do and do like L&D and people management and disciplinaries and employment stuff. So that's where it all started. And then I just found myself working through deliberately like a portfolio career option. So I wanted to do, a manufacturing company. I wanted to do healthcare. I wanted to do some charity stuff. I did a bit in financial services, and then eventually found myself in an HR director role back in 2013 for a machinery manufacturer, which I just loved. And it's hilarious when you think about it because they manufactured machines for food, which is great. But principally, they worked in like fresh red meat. So basically, what I say is, I spent a large proportion of my career getting excited about bacon machines, which is like the coolest thing ever, right? And then back in 2021, after the pandemic, I then decided to step out and do my own thing. So that's really where I feel like it's a whole new like life now. I don't know if you feel the same with yours, but like now is a whole new world to me. So started my own business in 2021, and now it feels like almost a second act of career and life and what I love to do. So yeah, and that's when People Sorted was born.
And it's a great feeling, isn't it? So I say to people that I seem to have found my niche, my passion. So when I get out of bed on a Monday morning, there is a skip to it rather than Sunday night belly when I used to have in the kind of when I worked in the bank. So it's great to have that feeling. And I know we had a good natter beforehand that we're both in that kind of bubble of enjoyment, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't get the Sunday scaries at all anymore, but I used to always have it. I'd have that like rushing heart, my stomach would be turning over, I'd feel a bit twitchy. And it's weird because it was only about like 6 months into self-employed life when I sat there on a Sunday night and was like, oh, I've just realised I don't feel weird. Like it made such a massive difference. But yeah, no Sunday scaries, and Monday skipping happens here too. So I'm with you.
But it's a great feeling, really good feeling. And
it is.
Because you said about being a unicorn and always been in that HR L&D role, what drew you to that world? So from a HR perspective, what drew you into that world?
I think I was always like just fascinated by people at work, I think. So when I was, back in the day, Pizza Hut days, I loved like how to motivate people. So I was a team manager for a bit, and I loved how you could motivate people to get stuff done, and you could have the busiest shift of your life, but you would have the greatest fun because you'd work out that what made people tick and what worked, and you'd have like fun incentives on the shift and stuff like that. And so I think that's where it started, which is a genuine like fascination for people at work. And then I think as the HR stuff started to come in, and I know we talked about this before we recorded, but as the HR stuff started to come in, like doing things like disciplinaries and investigations, like, and you get the howling ones where you're like, how on earth has this happened at work? Like, but even that I loved. because I'm like, how do people do this? Like, what is happening?
Yeah.
So yeah, I just love it. I just genuinely have a fascination for people at work. I think that's where it all started, really.
And it's great. I love that human psychology, how people work.
Yes.
And the bit for me, it's not all about paying people money. It's about treating them with respect, dignity. And I know that also you're an insights trainer as well. So I love that. So I'm a disc profiler.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
love that kind of connection and understanding people better, and toning up and toning down your
Yes.
behaviors.
Yes.
So yeah, it just feels good, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it does. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
That's definitely one of my happy spaces. It's funny because this week I'm doing 3 days of insights and I love it, but oh my word, that's a lot of energy. So
Yes.
I've done 3 days this week of insights. But yeah, same. I love it. And it's the psychology that drew me to that same thing. It's like, oh, understanding how personalities are formed and how it all works and what it looks like when we push up and push down those energies and stuff. So yeah, I love it. I'm with you on that.
And the bit is also follow on that. So what inspires you about HR? So if you were to say to somebody and go, do you know what, like an alien landed and said, that's what inspires me about HR, what would inspire you about HR?
Oh, I love that. That's a great question. If aliens landed as well, I like that little spin you've put on that there.
Yeah. You want to be in my world, Michelle, in this brain, the things that go on.
I so do. Now I've got aliens in my head.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think with HR, I always say, like, what I love about it is HR can change the world if you let it. And I think when you find organizations that let HR go bananas with all the stuff that they can do, it's just amazing, right? And I always say that HR, people say to me, oh, what do HR do and what is it about? And I always say that HR creates the environment in which high performance can happen. And I just think that's magical, isn't it? Like, who has that kind of like power, energy, stuff that can get that done in organizations? I just think it genuinely is like magic. So to get a great HR person, they will literally take your business to the next level. And that's what makes me really, like, it makes my heart sing. That's what makes my heart sing about HR is we can literally transform organizations, people's experiences of work. You can make people's lives better. Like if you think about, all the, reward recognition, the good stuff that we do around, making people happy. Like we used to do a lot of things like, when people had babies, we'd send them like a really cute little hamper and stuff like that. And, we'd never send flowers because that's the most awful thing to do, isn't it? Like, give us another thing to look after when we've got this screaming child in front of us. So we'd always send them like a little bouquet of baby grows, but shaped like flowers. So it just looked like a bouquet, but obviously it was baby stuff and stuff like that. And people were like, oh, this is amazing. Thank you so much. And I love stuff like that. Like, you can really make memories for people in what you do in work. People will remember what you did for them and what you said and all that good stuff. And I just think you don't get that in any other role. That's where HR is a special place, isn't it? Because you can change organizations, but you can also change lives. And I love that. That's a really powerful role, I think.
And to echo that as well, so just my personal opinion my experience is that some of the organisations we've worked with over previous years have lost their way of HR, and it's become a firefighting team. Problems, etc., those kind of things. And I've got a real big, can probably be in my bonnet, that's not HR's role. HR role is to grow, to lift the organisation, to look at those engagement. How do we drive to the future, not stay in the past? And the other bee in my bonnet is that leaders take the paycheck to be a leader. That's not just for the good times. That's also for the people parts, etc. So stop subcontracting your work to HR. Take that responsibility. That's my other kind of Braveheart speech there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm so with you. I'm behind you on the horse. I've got blue on my face. I'm so with you. I think there's a lot of leadership that do abdicate that responsibility for the people bit, don't they? And I think that's the challenge that HR has. Is what happens is we just become the department that everything gets thrown into.
Yes.
And I think that's the challenge, is where we're having to kind of say, don't feel like this fits within the scope of what we're supposed to be doing here. And then similarly, I don't see any other functions having that same battle, like that same. It's almost like you're the organizational dustbin sometimes. Like, there's no soap in the toilets, HR. It's just the weirdest thing. Like, you'd never do that to another function, would you? I just don't understand how that's happened. But
you wouldn't go to your marketing team or anything like that and go, by the way, the loos. Could you check those out for us? Would you? You just wouldn't.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly.
And it's the other thing I saw the other day, and I think it was from the CIPD paper, about 30% of HR colleagues on boards. So that was an eye opener for me, going, if companies really want to take it serious and really elevate their organization, they've got to shift that change. And I think I've got it right. I think with the stats and that kind of stuff. But I'm sure someone would tell me you may have got it wrong, Steve, on the call or something. So, but we see.
We'll wait for those people.
Yeah. I'll send them round to your house, Michelle. I go, Michelle said.
I'd love it. Yeah, I'd love that.
So now I'm fascinated, because I love your title. What does beige to brilliant in a magical with magical energy mean? What's that mean? Because I love the title. What's it mean?
Yeah, I think I guess it comes back to what we said actually about, typically what I saw in my career was HR people who were these beige people. So they were, lovely humans, but they were these people who just became this corporate robot who were just doing all the things, all the admin, all the paperwork, all the nicey, come and have a HR hug. And so for me, I felt like really that I was pushing myself into this mold that wasn't me. So I just felt like, oh, this is really strange. I don't get it. There's nobody like me that I can see in the world doing the things that I want to be doing. So there's nobody that I see, with a personality, energy, getting excited about HR things. You just didn't see it. I'd go to events and people just be talking in a really monotone voice about what was happening in the law field. And I was like, this is weird. Why are you not excited? So when I did the whole self-employed thing, I'd started to run some training stuff for clients on various different bits. And it was only when people started coming back to me and saying, oh, that was brilliant. Like, I loved your energy. I love what you're doing. And then I hang on a minute, I can help HR people here to kind of become their proper rainbow colored selves, because why not? Like, why can't you have a personality, energy, excitement, enthusiasm in HR about people stuff? Why can't we have that? And then I realized that I was probably a bit, I'm going to use unicorn again, probably a bit of a unicorn in the sense that there aren't many people out there who get what they're talking about, who share what they're talking about in a share, like in a learning way, and who are really passionate about it. And so that's what I decided to become, was the HR person I never had and always wanted. I worked with some amazing HR people, but none of them had all three of those key characters for me, about getting it, sharing it, being passionate about it. So that's kind of where it's all come from, really. And it's a really interesting when you've decided to get into that space, when you start then looking at other people and you're like, oh, that's interesting, because you clearly get it, but you're not sharing it, or you're clearly passionate about it, but you're not sharing your sources. Whereas I'm very open about, I found this thing and here's the report, go and have a look. Whereas a lot of people will do very different things where, it's not as engaging, or it's not as fun, or they don't give a spin on it, and that's the bit really where I'm at. So I guess that's a really long answer to your question.
No. But I think you've just literally opened the door for us to have a nose in to see actually where that's come from. And it's expensive. I've seen functional HR.
Yes.
So I've experienced that in my kind of career in the banking world, and also outside the banking world. But where I've seen HR teams elevate performance is that creativity.
Yes.
Is that different? Is that energy? And we all know that when people are more energetic, we go with them.
Yeah.
And we go, actually, that's a great way. We can see the vision. Whereas if we're there going, okay, I've got to, pick up the pieces or that kind of stuff, then everybody starts to get engulfed kind of in that behavior. So it's that for me is fantastic. And what's with you working with HR colleagues and what's the benefit to them about going from beige to brilliant? How do you help them go through that transition? Because some people will go, and I think you mentioned one of your podcasts, also one of your posts before, about being introverted.
Yes.
How do they, because people would naturally assume you're an extrovert, but how would people get that kind of, or move forward? How do you help people do that?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I feel like what I try to talk about is, and I've done a couple of talks on it, interestingly, about experimenting. So that's kind of my core phrase, because what that feels like to me, because I came from, big corporate, really sensible, me never was really sensible, but sensible, suited human. And I have now become this rainbow colored unicorn, sparkly, my brand is covered in rainbows person. And actually the way that I did that was a series of small experiments where, and it sounds like the most ridiculous thing to say, but I had I'd got to the place where if anybody noticed anything about me, so if somebody had noticed a piece of jewelry or a lipstick color or a nail polish color, I'd never wear it again. ever, because I'd be like, well, no, this isn't about what I'm wearing, this is about my profession. So I'd get really funny about that. So as time went on and I was trying to connect back to my authentic self, I was like doing these little mini experiments to see what would happen. So you know, I started with, and you'll laugh at this because you can see my nails, but I started with like clear nail polish with a little sparkle in it, like, and that was the first one. I remember going to work and I was like, I've got sparkly nails and someone's going to see, you know, and what happened was absolutely nothing. Like no one died. No one was like, oh, Michelle, that's terrible. You know, nobody even noticed. And I was like, oh, hang on a minute, I can do more. There's more. I can do more. You know, and then it became like, you know, jewelry or a bright scarf or a bright jacket, or, you know, it just became slowly much brighter. So when I talk to people about moving from beige to brilliant, I always say, it's your thing, like it's your journey. Your brilliant will be different to mine and vice versa. But you know, that experimenting bit is the core bit for me. And because experiment doesn't sound like change, does it? Experiment sounds like fun and a little practice, and there's no failure in experiments. It's just an experiment. So that's the kind of angle that I take. And then I guess also to come back to that like introversion extroversion point, is that people think, don't they, that, you know, to be this brilliant human being with magical energy, you've got to be massively extroverted. But you don't. You know, it can be whatever works for you. So and I think I've posted about this a fair number of times, but you know, what ended up with me being this, you know, corporate beige mold was I ended up burning out because I was being so different, you know, real me and work me, that it just became such a tension for me to hold that it was too much. And so that's the other part of it for me is, you know, if you can engage with your real self and let your real self in a little bit, you're going to be gifting yourself more energy to then do the good stuff, because you're not spending all your time and energy trying to fit yourself into this mold that's a bit beige and boring. So that's a really long answer. Sorry about that.
No, and I love. There's a couple of bits to pick up there about. First of all, about experimenting. So I know when I come out from working in a traditional corporate world. So it always suits, ties, those kind of things, and I love that. So I did enjoy that. But then when I started to go freelance, I would say to clients, "Can I just check what you'd like me to wear?" And they'd go, well, "Wear whatever you feel comfortable." And I went, "Can I take my tie off? Would that be, is that?" And that for me was like, wow, that is daring. How dare you? But it's so nice to take those shackles off and go, do you know what? This is what, you know, you see, it's relaxed. It's a nice environment. Let's create the energy. And the other thing I think I love the bit there is I go home like you, tired. You've given yourself the whole day. You've worked your socks off. But it's a nice tired, because you're not trying to impersonate another behavior, etc. You go home, I've given my best today, my best shot. I'm tired, but you know what? They've got me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, you've like lived your best life for a whole day, and that's a great thing, isn't it? And
then you get paid for it as well, which is even better, isn't it? That's the icing on the cake. If they say, if you're going to say, oh, I got paid for that as well, that's good. So I've been having fun all day, enjoying teaching, working with people, and then I get paid. It's a lovely way.
Exactly. I often do that. Like I'm in a lunch break and I'm like, I'm being paid to do this. This is great fun. So I totally get that.
And I think there's such a small minority that can experience that actually you and I have gone into from a corporate world or kind of that world to go out and try the kind of self-employed, that kind of stuff, and have our own companies. It's a great world. It's hard work, but it's a great world.
I totally agree. Agree.
Now the other thing which drew me when we first got together is about your LinkedIn posts and kind of where do you get your inspiration from for your, because I love your sense of humor, I get it. Where do you get your inspirations from?
Do you know what? I'd love to say, here's the process I go through and here's what I do. I don't. What I do is probably really bad practice, because I just do stuff on the day as well. So I rarely do like a, you know, I'm not one of those that like schedules posts and, you know, does things in a very planful way. I just do what's kind of on my mind. So, you know, I've got, I guess, if you wanted a tool, for example, I use Instapaper or iPaper, I think it's called, where you can save articles off and it just saves it all in one place. Instead of having like 500 tabs open with all the things you think are interesting, you can just go to one app and it's all collated. So I do that. So I guess like in that sense, you know, I do a lot of reading. I do a lot of like looking at other people's posts and all that kind of stuff. So I save those into that app. And then if I feel like I want to be a geek for a day, I've suddenly got this massive like cave of wonders in this app. So I do that a lot. But actually, I think a lot of the time, and what I get told is, you've literally said what was on my mind. Like, you've
Yeah.
literally read my mind and
Yeah.
posted what I've been thinking about forever. So I think some of it is about, like, I post what HR people, I was,
Yeah.
when I was an embedded HR person,
Yes.
like the things that really bugged me, or the things that I thought were hilarious, or the
Yeah.
things that were just eye rolls. And so I
Yeah.
post a lot of that because it just is real. And HR people
Yes.
don't talk about it. Like, even
Yeah.
like the most, influential HR people that I see don't talk about stuff like that, because they're like, oh, I'm scared I'm going to be judged. Whereas I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't care. This is hilarious. Let's talk about
Yes.
this. So I
Yeah.
try to make it like, I guess I'm printing what everybody else is thinking. That's the way
Yeah.
I tried to pitch it.
Yeah.
And then the fun stuff, I just feel like I did a course ages ago about how to do biz dev on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And one of the things was, just be a lighthouse for whatever it is that you want to attract.
Yeah.
And at the time, I thought, oh, that's an interesting like concept. I wonder what
Yeah.
that looks like. And then,
Yeah.
of course, I started it, and I'm like, how are all these people finding me? And then I realized it's because I do stuff like stuff that can get in the bin,
Yeah.
and Cards Against Human Resources and stuff. Well, of course, that attracts people who just love
Yes.
stupid humor and
Yeah.
fun and
Yeah.
having a sense of humor in HR. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of where it comes from, I guess. Is I think about all the things that used to really grind my gears as an
Yeah.
HR person, but also things that I just think are so funny that I've
Yeah.
just got to share them. Like, I
Yeah.
can't not share them. That's where I
Yeah.
get to some days. I'm like, oh my God, I've got to share this. So
Yeah.
yeah, I just get to whatever piques my geek on the day, I think.
Yeah. And and the bit for me is about having fun, and that life. This is my spiritual moment, about life's short. We want to enjoy it, have
Yes.
fun, have laughter, and the best courses, best workshops over gone. They were fun. They were engaging. Like when I see like LinkedIn posts, if they're fun, engaging, they get kind of points
Yeah.
across those kind of bit. You're more inclined to go, oh, let's have a look from that point
Yeah.
of view. But you and I were talking beforehand that we've definitely got our new strategy is putting dogs on posts on LinkedIn. Definitely gains more people. I think that's the future we're going to go for. Put our
If
dogs
all
on the
else
post.
fails, post a pet.
Yeah, post a pet. That is it. Even if it's a tortoise, get it on there. That's what we need to show, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, you've got to post your pets. That's the rules.
Yeah. And just from like with your LinkedIn posts and the work that you do, what difference do you see in people afterwards? So when you've worked with them, talking from Beige to Brilliant with magical energy, what difference do you see from them, or the benefits they see?
Yeah, it's a really good point. I always say that I don't, and this is gonna I'm probably gonna unsell myself now.
Yeah.
But I don't like sell training as such. So for me, I guess what when people talk to me about it, I say that I sell like a moment. So I feel like if you sell training, it's a one and done thing.
Yes.
Here's a
Correct.
thing, like brilliant, here's a workbook, off you go. But
Yeah.
what I would say that I sell is a moment that generates a conversation that will go on
Yeah.
for months, days, years.
Yeah.
And when people say to me like, "Oh, I want some training on
Yeah.
anti-bribery and corruption," I'm like, yawn. But what I say to them, like, what do you want? Because if you want something that's like a run through a policy,
Yeah.
A, I'm not your person, but B, that won't stick with people. But if you
Yes.
want training where people will remember
Yeah.
that session for whatever reason, and I did do one on bribery and corruption, and
Yeah.
the theme coming out of it was about behavioural, behaving the
Yes.
right way for anti-bribery and corruption. And the theme that I came up with was, does it make your nan proud? And that was
Yeah.
literally it. But that's what they
Yeah.
all remember. So then they
Yes.
go, oh, would this make my nan proud? Oh, hang on a minute. Oh,
Yeah.
no. And then they'll remember, oh, well, we did that quiz thing, and then we had this
Yes.
moment where we had to, and suddenly
Yeah.
that generates all of that good knowledge
Yes.
retention,
Yeah.
that energy, and so for me, what I call good training or good development is
Yeah.
when people remember that moment. You're
Yes.
creating a moment in time and people connect to that. So
Yeah.
I guess that's what people come away with is,
Yeah.
yes, there's good knowledge. Yes, there's beautiful handouts. Yes,
Yeah.
there's, a day and training is achieved.
Yeah.
But for me, what they come away with is something where they're like, oh, that was great.
Yeah.
And people leave my sessions like hyped up. They
Yes.
leave with energy. Whereas I don't know if
Yeah.
you probably did actually in the corporate world, where you do a day of training, you're like, oh my God, I want to shoot my face off. Like, you're just
Yeah.
so tired, you've had enough, you're
Yeah.
worn out, your eyes are dry. Whereas when people leave my sessions, I feel like they're buzzing, they're ready to go, they want to start the
Yes.
next conversation, they want it to happen, they're really
Yeah.
excited. So I guess that's the difference with that, Beige to
Yeah.
Brilliant magical energy thing, is I'll create a moment that will generate conversations going forward.
And it's that's the bit of where I think you and I connecting, is about that moment, that experience. I want people to leave with a good memory of going, do you know what,
Yes.
that and you've made it real world for me and connected. And I've been fortunate enough, and I've probably delivered these training when I was back in the bank of, the very dull grey things, and go, death by PowerPoint and that kind of stuff. Whereas now it's great to put your own spin, your own energy, those kind of things. And people always say, probably like yourself, is how do you keep the energy up in the afternoon? Because in the morning it's like the honeymoon period, isn't it? You get everyone excited and that kind of stuff. They have lunch and they go, oh, is the day done, and all that kind of bit. Whereas it's having that energy all day, and people go, like, probably say to yourself, of how do you keep it going? And I go, well, it's just fun, isn't it? Let's just go for it. Let's see what we can learn and what we can do by the end of the day. And the other bit which I like is when people go, wow, the day's flown. And even online or that kind of, people go, the day's flown. That tells me we've had a good day, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And people, it's funny, I've been doing a load of these insights days. I was saying to you, wasn't I? I've done a load of insights days. And I do always do a feedback flip chart, so I don't get the weird creeping death. Give me a word of how you feel. I get people to just catch it on a flip chart, and then we talk it through, or they go or whatever. And every single session they've gone, I want more. I could have done with more time. I would have liked more time. And I'm like, oh, that's a good sign. They've left the whole day, psychology and development and awareness, and they want more. Like, that's a great sign, isn't it? Like, ready to do more, rather than, oh, I'm really tired and I need to go and think about this. That's a great sign, I think.
And it always makes me laugh with when I come across people at the beginning of the day. The first question usually is, what time's lunch? and when do we leave? And you're like, you're being paid to be here today, so let's just think about that for a minute. So I always make fun. And I remember when I first started doing on I think it was Zoom, I said to somebody on Zoom, I said, that's a really nice coffee cup that you've got there. Because I'm a nosy Parker. So I go, that's a really nice coffee cup. And they went, yeah, I need it to get through this. And I was like, oh, thanks for that. Literally. And then they went, no, I didn't mean about you, Steve. And I went, it's all right. If I had feelings, it would hurt.
Too late now.
It's out in the open, isn't it? And what are you working on for 2023? So people say about goals, aspirations, etc. What is, Michelle, if we cut you in half, what are you working on this year?
Oh, I feel like, and this again is another one where this is new for me. So when I was in corporate life, I used to have like clear goal. I want X by Y, or I'm going to do ABC by 2015 or whatever. But now what's really interesting is I am enjoying like feeling my way through. And that's a new thing for me. So I feel like there's been some amazing stuff that I've been doing around the business partner training that I do, and so I really feel like that's got to be a thing. Like, I've got to make that another a thing, because I just love it. I'm getting great feedback, all that kind of stuff. But I just feel like it's going to be more of the same. Like, I love what I'm doing. I'm really enjoying it. Like, I love the people that I'm interacting with. So it just feels like more of the same, which doesn't feel like a big sexy answer to what you've just said. But I feel like I'm loving it. So why would I stop? I'm going to follow the joy, is what I say. So I'm just going to follow the joy.
And do you know what? It's really refreshing, because I say to people about that. So we've had people on the podcast. So actually, I want to learn to ride a bike. And the bit for me is what I'm probably, and it's not staged. It's like, it's not always the corporate answer we're looking for. It's the real answer. So I said to somebody this year, I wanted to learn to swim properly as one of my goals. And they went, not business. And I went, well, no, I just want to learn how to swim. And I can swim, but I want to get better and try and do it. So it's just trying to see what's that real person or that real self to work on. Because I always say, when people set those big audacious goals, very rarely do they hit them. They get their confidence knocked, all that kind of stuff. Whereas actually little bite-sized chunks and going, do you know what, just carry on, fine. And I like the bit of feeling around, but you also said about with the business partner part, that's something there. So it's really refreshing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I also don't do, and I always post about this every year, but I don't do resolutions either, for the same reason. And I just have like a word of the year. And you'll probably laugh at this. My word of the year for this year was energy. And I feel like, oh, I've lived that now. But when you have something like a word of the year, it does stick in your head, doesn't it? Because you're like, oh, does this give me energy? Can I share my energy? Is it magical? All those things, suddenly it kind of feeds into what you're doing. So I love it.
But I remember many, many years ago when we, you would have gone through in the corporate world about objectives, and then your personal development is what is it? And I said to
Yeah.
somebody, do you know what? I want to be more grateful this year.
Ooh,
That's
yeah.
one of those things. I said, I think I take things for granted. So I'm going to really work on being grateful, but genuine grateful.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they were like, that's not very corporate. And I was going, and do you know what? I had a whale of a time because it was relevant, and I kept, and I could easily measure it and go, and actually, I am being more grateful and taking my time and thinking about it. So I think the word of the year that's just resonated with me again for next year. So I think I'm going to be like gorgeous next year.
Yes. Yes. Do it. Do it.
No, you're supposed to say you're already gorgeous. No, you're supposed to.
Well, you started well with the bright pink shirt. So what can I say?
So Michelle, how would people get hold of you, speak to you? How can people connect with you of kind of with your business, etc.?
Yeah, nice. Thank you. So LinkedIn primarily. So I'm a bit like you in that I just primarily use LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So yeah, connect with me on LinkedIn. Mrs. Michelle No, it's not. That's my Instagram. Oh my word. LinkedIn is
You've just given all your passwords away.
It's Michelle Hartley, FCIBD. So you'll find me there on LinkedIn. There's also a People Sorted page. I've got a Find Your Awesome page, which is the business partner one. And I also have, I think we talked about this, but I have a community group called the HR Geek Squad, and that's a page on LinkedIn as well. So yeah, you can find me in most corners of LinkedIn if you just search for have fun. I'll probably pop up on the first page.
Yeah. And I just want to say that, like with me, seeing your stuff, the posts, they are inspiring. I find them truly inspiring. And I think that the true self, like today, is about the real you coming out from that point of view. So I would just say to people, connect with Michelle. Wonderful stuff that she puts out, really energizing, really inspirational. So I would just say from that point of view, follow Michelle from that point of view. And you will see us again, hopefully in the future, in our team kits. So,
yes. Now I feel like we're gonna have to make some kind of selfie game going on where we can just have pink for the day.
you never know, that may happen. Or I'll say, guess where I am now and what colour kit I've got on. So that would have to play that. That'd be really good.
That is a deal. That feels like a game we could do.
So can I just say thank you ever so much. I wish you all the best for the rest of the year. I know you'll be a huge success, but thank you ever so much for coming on our podcast today, Michelle. Really, really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for having me. I've absolutely loved it. Thank you so much.